When looking at Hollywood's attempts to convey the story that began in Japan in the mid-1950s, the Godzilla film franchise may be the most critically and commercially unsuccessful in history. Godzilla, or Gojira, was originally conceived as a metaphor for the devastation wrought by the atomic bomb. As a warning about the dangers of utilizing such sophisticated weaponry, the monster eventually came to stand for Japan's post-war recovery and development. In the course of many years, Godzilla grew inextricably linked to Japan, and eventually the US market took notice. TriStar Pictures obtained the rights from the creators of the original, Toho Co., in preparation for a major release of the first American-made adaptation of the narrative in May 1998. Godzilla, 1998. The public's and the reviewers' reception of the film, directed by Roland Emmerich, was, to put it mildly, less than enthusiastic. Something about this film didn't quite work, be it the VFX, visual effects, the subpar performances of the lead actors, or the film's general almost comedic character. Many fans had waited years for a Godzilla picture to come out of Hollywood, and when it finally did, it was met with much anticipation. The initial script for the film had been created 5 years before its eventual release. You could say that Emmerich's casting of Matthew Broderick as the lead was a miscalculation, considering how popular he became after the success of Stargate and Independence Day, but he has since become something of a B-movie icon. Production costs were roughly $150 million, but the film's international box office only reached $379 million. This was far less than the company had hoped for. The film's poor reception halted production on the third installment of a planned trilogy, making it the 23rd Godzilla film overall. Godzilla, 2014. It took Hollywood less than 20 years to revive the series, with MonsterVerse serving as the jumping-off point for Legendary Pictures' attempt to compete with Marvel and DC. As a result, British director Gareth Edwards was brought on board, and Aaron Taylor Johnson was cast as the lead to make a film with a younger focus than the original's 1998 release. Edwards' Godzilla reboot was a critical and commercial success because it was more faithful to the original plot. To begin the picture, Godzilla is lured to the Bikini Atoll so that a nuclear bomb may be used to eliminate him. This plan fails, and Godzilla is accidentally awakened during a deep-sea expedition. Because of this, a secret program codenamed Project Monarch was established to spy on monsters like Godzilla. As the story's climax approaches, Godzilla's assistance is needed to eliminate the Mutos, another group of large monsters on the loose. Godzilla, King of the Monsters, 2019. A sequel of sorts wasn't released for another 5 years. This time, Millie Bobby Brown, star of Netflix's Stranger Things, was recruited to appeal to a younger demographic. Seeing as Edwards had no interest in returning for a second Godzilla film, the reins were handed over to the relatively novice filmmaker Michael Dougherty, who also authored the script. Godzilla is required to restore equilibrium on Earth now that a more diverse group of beings known as the Titans has emerged. Because of this, the directors are able to set up multiple war situations, which, in all honesty, has a bad effect on the human characters. While there is plenty of kaiju action, the plot largely consists of a series of big set pieces with nothing in the way of character development or a coherent goal. The film's poor reception was indicative of a wider problem in the legendary MonsterVerse. Godzilla vs. Kong, 2021. If you exclude Skull Island, which was more of an independent vehicle, the coronavirus epidemic caused a delay in the release of Godzilla, King of the Monsters, the third episode of the Godzilla franchise as part of the legendary MonsterVerse series. The movie had already been shot before the COVID-19 breakout, so it didn't need any stock footage or other techniques to finish the picture. It was released to theaters in March 2021 and fared surprisingly well, considering the circumstances. Director Adam Wingard, who earned a reputation for himself in the horror subgenre, did a serviceable job with this epic, which pits two massive animals against one another in a battle to the death. In the end, the two sides settle for a ceasefire so that humanity can focus on the more pressing issue of the Hollow Earth, and its abundance of gigantic monsters intent on annihilating humanity. Given the positive critical reception, it's hardly unexpected that a sequel is in the works, tentatively titled Origins and scheduled for release in 2024. Now moving forward to the evolution of Godzilla in games. The original Godzilla video game was launched in Japan in 1983 for the Nintendo Entertainment System, NES. This was a straightforward side-scrolling action game in which players controlled Godzilla as he wreaked havoc across cities, fending off enemy tanks and jets while attempting to sidestep obstacles. The graphics in the game were of a primitive 8-bit style, and both the gameplay and the mechanics required very little explanation. On the other hand, it was an enormous hit in Japan, and it laid the groundwork for subsequent installments of the Godzilla video game series. After another 5 years, the NES was finally graced with the presence of Godzilla, Monster of Monsters. The previous game's core idea was improved upon in its sequel, which featured a greater number of foes for players to face off against and a more involved narrative. In addition to Godzilla, players were given the ability to take command of other monstrous beings like Mothra, Rodan, and King Ghidorah. In addition to that, it featured an innovative gameplay system that allowed players to swap between controlling Godzilla and other monsters in the game. It was a smash hit in both Japan and the United States of America, and it established a precedent for subsequent Godzilla video games. The following major installment of the Godzilla series didn't come out until the year 2002. It was a 3D fighting game called Godzilla: Destroy All Monsters Melee for the GameCube. It featured many of the monsters from the movies, including Godzilla, as playable characters. Fans and journalists alike praised the game for its fast-paced gameplay and arcade-inspired atmosphere, and the game garnered positive reviews. There was also a story mode in the game, which let players to take control of a variety of creatures and experience a different side of the story than what was shown in the movies. The game was a great hit, and it marked a turning point in the franchise by being the first Godzilla game to be distributed outside of Japan. This was a significant event in the history of the franchise. 5 years after its initial release, Godzilla Unleashed was made available for the PlayStation 2 and the Wii. This game upgraded the graphics and added more detail to the damage compared to the earlier game on the NES, but the gameplay remained the same and was chaotic. The player had the ability to take control of a variety of Godzilla incarnations from across the franchise's history, and engage in combat in a variety of locations. The game also had a distinctive anger element, which allowed players to increase Godzilla's power and cause more damage to their opponents. It was a return to the more conventional Godzilla game formula, and it was a huge hit with fans. The next generation Godzilla game was made available for the PlayStation 4 in the year 2014. This game featured a more realistic and detailed design for the monster, and it was a return to the darker tone that was present in the early games in the series. The realistic reconstruction of the legendary character was praised for earning the game great reviews, while the gameplay centered on epic battles between many creatures and an emphasis on destruction. There was also a story mode in the game, in which players could take control of a variety of monsters and experience the narrative from a variety of perspectives. The game was a success with fans, and it ushered in a new era for the Godzilla franchise by being the first installment of the series to be made available on a next-generation gaming platform. 2019 saw the release of the Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 4 versions of the video game Godzilla Domination. This game introduced a new method to play as the King of Monsters in the form of a more arcade-style fighting game. Players could take control of several forms of Godzilla from different eras of the franchise, and engage in combat against other kaiju in a variety of environments. The game was a huge hit with the players, and it received high marks for the intense action that it included as well as the diverse assortment of monsters that players could control in the game. The turn-based strategy video game titled Godzilla Kaiju Collection was made available for mobile devices in the year 2020. This game gave players the opportunity to acquire and fight many iterations of Godzilla as well as other monsters from the Godzilla franchise. This game was a success with fans and non-fans alike, and it received accolades for having gameplay that was straightforward yet compelling, as well as for offering a diverse selection of monsters to gather. The future of Godzilla in gaming appears to be even more promising thanks to the rapid development of new technology. The use of technologies such as virtual reality and augmented reality can bring gamers even closer to the action, giving them the opportunity to actually feel as though they are in the midst of a battle with the king of the monsters. In addition, developments in artificial intelligence, AI, and machine learning technologies can make it possible to have gaming experiences that are even more realistic and dynamic. There have also been speculations of impending mobile games that would let players to control and customize their own versions of Godzilla and other monsters, as well as engage in combat against other gamers from all over the world. These games are expected to be released in the near future. But the evolution of the franchise isn't simply limited to technological advancements. The plot and character growth aspects are also constantly being refined. Both the recently released box office smash, Godzilla vs. Kong, and the forthcoming MonsterVerse feature, Godzilla Singularity, will inject the series with new stories, characters, and monsters, which will undoubtedly have an effect on the gaming industry as well. The progression of Godzilla throughout the history of video games has been nothing short of exciting, from the early days of 8-bit destruction to the highly complex conflicts of today. Fans can look forward to even more thrilling adventures in the future, as the franchise continues to evolve and push the boundaries of what is possible in gaming. Each new game brings a new way to experience the character and his world, and fans can look forward to even more thrilling adventures in the future. The Godzilla video game franchise had been active for several decades, and even now, it was consistently ranked among the most played video game franchises all over the world. The Godzilla video games were constantly being updated in response to developments in both gaming technology and new gaming platforms. Between the years 2021 and 2022, we were gone to saw an increase in the number of brand new projects and fresh concepts that would brought the franchise to an even greater level. Game designers were breaking new ground with their creations, by focusing on developing immersive experiences that transport players into a fantastical world populated by monstrous creatures and intense combat. Fans could look forward to an incredible year of gaming, as Godzilla continued its journey into 2023 thanks to the many interesting projects that were now in the production stage. This was the evolution of the Godzilla. We hope you liked the video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon for more videos about the evolution of things. Thank you for watching.